It comes and goes. We're out here chasing a feeling.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. This is your host, Becky McNattin, along with host Tara Martini. We're so glad to have you listening today as we live and share stories of mental health. And Tara, I've been super excited for this show today.
Ooh.
You want to know why?
Well, obviously.
We get to talk through humor and play.
Oh,
And I've been thinking about this topic a lot lately and how critical humor and play is to our mental health. As we get started, what does the word playfulness mean to you?
Joy.
Oh, it makes you think of joy.
Mm-hmm.
What
makes you
about
think of joy and not taking things so seriously?
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
What about the words goofy or silly? Or maybe even spontaneous?
Yeah. Makes me think of fun, makes me think of joy producing, makes me think we don't do it enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even as I say those words, I think about actual memories for me of when those things have occurred.
Yes.
And when you say we don't do it enough, as a society, we typically connect playfulness with childhood. We tell kids to go play.
Right.
We schedule play dates. We buy toys, games, anything that will promote play. And then something changes. We start to seemingly care what other people think. And we want to come across differently. Maybe we want to fit in. But we start to use the word childish almost as a put down, like seriousness is better.
I have never thought of it that way.
Yeah, we start to think that hard work looks like something different than laughter or silliness, and that playfulness of being a kid morphs into something else. Like hard work doesn't fit with the idea of fun, and goofy doesn't align with responsibility. I just saw the phrase last weekend. It was a t-shirt that said, "I'm done with adulting today."
Oh, yeah.
And I'm
how
sure
many
you've
times
seen
have
it.
we said that?
Yeah, but what does that mean? And I think it gives this connotation of responsibility. I'm done making the decisions. I'm done with being serious. And what if adulting included more play?
That would be so amazing. And I think we'd all be happier. Right?
We might be immersed in a moment differently.
More present.
Yes. Yeah. And why do you think then we quit being playful? And then what do you think the impact is to mental health because we kind of quit being playful?
Well, and I think I would love to know, and I think you nailed it, what you just said about there comes a time where we start to notice others around us and how we are similar or different. And then that plays into our confidence and that idea of being ourselves. But I do want to know like what other factors, which is so interesting, where, oh my gosh, if we just included more play, I feel like we would be happier at our jobs. We'd be happier at home. But it would definitely take work.
Yeah, well, you have me thinking about like, why do we quit doing it? And why does it become something that's so hard? I look at kiddos and play seems to be something fairly natural. So what shifts? And then in thinking about the impact on mental health, I'm just thinking about the last time I had fun was.
Right.
And if it wasn't 5 minutes ago, my guess is children are like, I don't know, I just had fun like now. 45 seconds.
Yes.
That then we're actually reflecting on a moment, probably with some distance in between. What was the last time you had fun? And if you're listening at home, I want to ask you some questions before our commercial break of when was the last time you had fun? Think about, when did you last play? When you played, when you laughed so hard, so hard. And can you remember how your mood changed in that moment? How you felt different? We're going to talk about all those things.
Oh my gosh.
Right now, we're going to take a short commercial break, but stay tuned as we talk through your play personality. There is one, everybody, and ways you can promote humor and play in your daily life. Thank you for listening to Feels Out Loud. We will be back in just a moment.
Love it.
You don't never need help from nobody else. All you got to do now much you lost.
Welcome back to Feels Out Loud, brought to you by Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness. I am Tara Martini, along with the fabulous Becky McNattin. Let's get right back to our discussion about humor and playfulness in adulthood, which Becky did have us thinking about a lot of things before the break.
Yeah. So, Tara, our business, Becoming Together Therapy and Wellness, is a sponsor of Twin Cities Pride every June.
So proud of that.
And we have a booth there. And you would remember this from last year, even, the last 2 years, we've had this prize wheel where we hand out various prizes. One of the prizes we handed out last year was bubbles.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many adults were thrilled to land on bubbles and would immediately and pretty spontaneously open them up and start playing with them. And you remember this?
I
'cause you
remember
were there.
it. I
was
remember.
amazing how something so simple
Yes.
and small as bubbles could change our moods, and
Mhm.
has me thinking, and I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
When do you remember being spontaneously playful just like that?
Okay. No joke. This literally happened this morning. So I was on my way home from the chiropractor and dropping my daughter off at school. And I'm just driving along in, I would say, a pleasant mood, but not near or close to playful and fun.
Okay.
And I see, you know how kids are waiting for the bus stop.
Yeah.
So at every block, there's a small group of elementary children waiting. And usually I just drive past, not a thing. I start to approach the corner, and the kids do, since the beginning of time, the motion for honking your horn. Like, remember when we used to do it to
Like bending your
semis?
elbow, pulling
Yes,
your
and
hand
like
from the
pulling up
ceiling.
and down.
Yeah.
And they look at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I honk the horn in a very annoying way, and they all laugh and giggle.
Yeah.
And then I already noticed ahead that the next group is doing the same thing. And so then I'm like eagerly getting to their corner, and then I do a more like, a fancier little honk. And everybody was just full of joy. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it just feels so good to laugh. Like, when you're so happy you giggle?
Yes. Like a lightness.
That is how I felt. And it brought me back to my childhood.
Yes.
Right? That idea of
Yes.
how many times we stood on a bridge or we're on a road trip with our family and you do the little horn thing.
Yes.
It was
Well,
lovely.
And you highlight such a basic moment
Yes.
of spontaneous play.
Yep.
And even as you're sharing the experience from this morning,
Mhm.
your face lights up, you're smiling.
Right?
Something changed in your mood.
Mm-hmm.
And that
It did.
playfulness has a huge impact on us in literally every way.
Mm-hmm.
The research around playfulness shows the list is enormously long here, but I'm going to highlight some of the things that it does to impact us.
Okay.
It reduces stress, generates higher creativity, increases intrinsic motivation, provides greater sense of hope, gives us capacity to reframe life situations, makes people more excited about life in general, offers ability to appreciate beauty, tends to lead to higher creativity. Oh my gosh, it keeps going. The
Hope.
The research says it's linked to more positive relationships,
Wow.
life satisfaction, active lifestyle, even overall higher ratings of well-being. It's incredible. And
That is
playfulness,
incredible.
if I even think about it, it allows us to frame or reframe our circumstances. Even this
Mhm.
morning, as you are driving
Yeah.
something that's kind of mundane,
Mhm.
you reframed that as light and playful
Yes.
to make them entertaining.
Mhm.
It makes them intellectually stimulating, maybe even more interesting. Some of the research found that playfulness can actually make tense moments less tense too. And
think of if you've been in an argument with someone. I mean, I've done this for sure, and I'll just flat out like make a dumb noise or just like
Yes.
start dancing around and like whatever, because it's like, you can't see mad at me
yes.
if I do all this stuff.
So if it's so wonderful, why don't we do it?
Why don't we? Because you just listed a plethora of things that we would all benefit from. And what a simple thing to do. This doesn't cost money. This isn't something you train for.
Mm-hmm.
This is instant that you
Mhm.
could do this and just add more play into your day.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Uh,
did you know that there are types of playfulness?
I didn't until we were prepping for this episode.
I didn't
and then,
either.
of course, my mind was blown.
I-
We have to share that.
I didn't either. And so in looking at, and maybe there's more types of playfulness than these, but there are 7 types of playfulness that I saw
hmm
in looking at how does playfulness work for adults? One is gregarious.
Okay.
That's a beautiful word, but it
Mhm.
effectively means cheerful.
Mhm.
This is the type of play where people would be friendly,
Mhm.
social,
Okay.
it's interactive,
Yep.
uninhibited type of play. That's the total spontaneous, impulsive,
Okay.
pretty unpredictable, adventurous, a little like what you did this morning.
Mhm.
Coupled with the next one, which is
Right.
comedic. That's joking, that's teasing,
Okay.
funny, laughter, this lightheartedness. That might be like, I don't know, kind of gentle roasting of the
Mhm.
people that we
Yeah.
love or care about. There is dynamic play, which is active and energetic. That might
Okay.
be tag of
Okay.
childhood
Okay. Yep.
or yoga class or some
Okay.
sort of like kickboxing class.
Okay. Or playing volleyball or
Yes. So any kind of team sport.
Yep.
Yes. There is this other directed play, which is interactions between people and gets at that banter between us, where
Okay.
I'm literally playing off of
Okay.
how you're showing up.
Yep.
There is this intellectual kind of play, which I hadn't thought about before. I do this
Mm-mm.
all the time. Adopting a worldview that values improvisation.
Oh yeah, that is so you.
It is. And seeing life as more of a playground as opposed to filled with serious duties. So the things that we
Oh my
have to get
gosh.
done,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's like kind of fun to do.
Wow. Think about just that whole reframe of if we viewed life as a playground.
What a great metaphor.
I mean,
What changes in our day-to-day circumstance if the things we're already
Right.
doing we saw as a playground?
well,
And that really leads to this last type of play, which is whimsical. Someone who makes plays on words,
mhm,
maybe imagines scenarios. These tend to be like cool what if wanderers
mhm.
and thinking through the interconnectedness of things.
You are a whimsical, playful person.
I
It's
I
so
am, you know me
whimsical
well.
is describing you so perfectly.
So, okay, so can you picture different people for these different types of playfulness?
Yes, absolutely.
And then does play with each of those types of people look different?
Oh my gosh, for sure. Because I also think about we as humans know each other well enough as far as our inner circle. Some of these types of play would not be effective with others, right? So if you have a very sensitive friend
Yes.
who's highly emotive, it may not be that whole banter back and forth
Right.
or nicknames or a light teasing that's going to be effective,
Yes.
right? And then that play is going to backfire,
Yes.
right? Where I know others who appreciate that solid banter and goofiness. So you almost do have to adapt the type of play depending on the human that you're around.
Mhm. Well said. And in thinking about playfulness, I learned
Mhm.
a lot about what play means and that we all have different styles of play.
Mhm.
I learned that there are actually play personalities. We
Didn't
have
know
a
that
play
either, girl.
personality for real. Dr. Stuart Brown is a researcher and founder of the National Institute for Play.
Can you just pause right there? The National Institute for Play.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real thing.
And a fantastic
It exists.
resource for anybody who's listening who wants to learn more about the impact of play in our lives at all ages.
Mhm.
Look up the National Institute for Play. Stuart Brown has identified 8 different play personalities to help people find what kind of play works best for them. So it gets at what you were just talking about, that we all show up to this idea of playfulness
Mhm.
with a different thought of what's going to work for us, what's going to resonate.
Right.
And
Yep.
knowing that about ourselves allows us to integrate that type of play into our
Mhm.
life. So we have the collector.
Okay.
This is a person who enjoys building collections like coins, maybe memorabilia. I know somebody well who it's all things sports memorabilia. I know somebody who loves superhero stuff. So they might be a collector and that's playful for them. We have the competitor who enjoys playing and then winning games with specific rules, like playing for a softball league. You mentioned pickleball.
Yeah.
We have the playful creator or artist. So somebody who finds joy
Yes.
in making things or maybe making things work.
I think of our dear friend Emily we just had on the show.
Yes, last week, who would find joy in the arts.
Yes.
And this person might like doodling, woodworking, decorating, maybe sewing, machinery,
Painting.
robotics.
Yeah.
We have the director. Their playful personality is enjoying planning and directing, like hosting themed parties. They like
Yes.
organizing events. It's moi.
Yes.
We have the explorer. Listeners, you might be a person who plays by discovering something new,
Yes.
either physically, like a new place, or mentally. So you might be a person, your play personality is going on a vacation to a new spot, listening to new music, trying a new restaurant.
I love that you're putting a name to it, right? Because for example, like I've thought, if you take out the words explorer, I've thought to myself like, oh my gosh, I love traveling new places, listening to new music, trying new things. And then there is actually a name for it.
There's actually a name for it. Yes. And you and I would be biased here, but we believe awareness of self and insight about self helps us live our best wellness oriented life.
It does.
And if we know what rings for us in terms of play, we don't need to tell ourselves, well, this is what play looks like.
Right.
And that's not me, so I don't play.
Right.
Everybody does.
Right. But just
maybe
in a different way. Because interesting you bring that up, because the next one you're going to talk about, I find even for myself, it's hard sometimes to be the jokester, the silly and foolish.
Yes.
Where, like you said, it isn't that I am not playful. It's just that's not my style of play.
Exactly. So what you're referencing is the play personality of the Joker. That is somebody who might like improv theater, simply making people laugh. These are kind of the comedians. And of course, then their play is going to be maybe sarcastic banter. Maybe it's going to be even participating in improv.
Yep. And it can be a combo like of these things too.
Yeah.
You're not just one or the other.
And we probably all know somebody who's super funny.
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't mean, though, that's always somebody else's play.
Right.
We have the kinesthete. And that's you enjoy moving your body as you play.
Well, it's the kinesthetic part.
Yes.
Yep.
And you might participate in a dance class. Emily, last week when we were here, we're chatting with her, this might be how you seek fun. You're moving while you're doing it. And if you don't enjoy moving as you have fun, you might be a different play personality.
Well, yeah, I'm too lazy to be that type of playful person.
Yeah. The last one we have is the storyteller.
I love this one.
You play by listening to or creating stories. So you play by going to theater. You play by reading books. You might play by journaling. I think this is you, my dear.
And I think this is you. So we definitely have that in common.
And part of what you referenced a few minutes ago was this idea that knowing someone and being in relationship with someone might be identifying what their play personality is too.
Yep.
Because somebody might play differently
than
us.
It's like the love languages almost, right? It's that connection to another episode where it could be you have to look at how will this be received, right? And then how are they playful? Which this is so fascinating.
Well, and it does make me think about, tell me what your thoughts about this are, that play has this element of vulnerability.
Oh, 100%, because it's fear.
Yeah. And so if we put ourselves out there to play,
right,
and somebody who we are around doesn't resonate with a kind of play, rather than interpreting it as, oh, maybe you have a different play personality, we might feel shame from being so vulnerable that we shut down.
Oh my gosh. Think of how this has happened, I bet, to every single person. For you, maybe it's that kinesthetic part where you love dancing, right? So you're dancing around the room, and how often in your life have you gone up to someone and been like, come on, let's dance? And the person doesn't want to.
Yes.
Because they are scared of being vulnerable, right? And you get offended, like, oh, come on. But it is that piece of which we may have not all recognized this till literally right now because of you, Becky, of that is my type of play, but that may not be someone else's because they are not willing to have that level of vulnerability yet in front of a bigger group.
And because they might play different.
Yes.
And that their play doesn't mean my play's bad.
Right.
That's
just different.
That they're not necessarily even judging.
Right.
Or we receive it from oh, you think play is not a good thing. That people might not be saying that, but they might be a collector. and you might be goofy.
Right.
And those are going to be really different types of
Yeah,
play.
but they're still amazing.
So when we think about how each of us plays,
Yes.
I want to think about how we integrate that and maybe even stretch ourselves to try another form of play, because we likely have somebody else in our lives who's a different play personality.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk through some strategies.
All right.
One that I thought of was, if we really want to integrate play, observe kids.
Oh,
They're everywhere. See how spontaneous they are. I believe kids are some of the greatest teachers. So look at, what are they doing? Do you have any example? Well, you have an
I
example
do.
from this morning.
Well, I have the example from this morning. And then also I'm blessed to work with preschool age kiddos for early childhood stuff once a week. So I have this beautiful opportunity every single week to be surrounded by play. And we just, because the weather was nice, we were outside playing on the playground Tuesday. And it was so amazing to see them just, I mean, you know, you close the gate and it's like, everybody go have fun.
Yeah.
And they could simply just go down the slide, swing on the swing or whatever. But instead, they created a narrative of like, there's a monster. It was a dinosaur. And so-and-so was going to be a dinosaur, and they were chasing him around, and there were safe zones and whatever. And they're just, it's improv. Like, they're just making this up as they go along.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing, that is the whimsical. The most beautiful thing is, not all these kids speak the same language. So they're doing this spontaneous, playful thing without even having to be verbal.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. And it is a gift. Like, I acknowledge I'm very blessed to be able to do that once a week and just be surrounded by it. But you do see, I learned so much from them every single week, because they truly are the greatest teacher.
Yeah. And they release something in a willingness to be themselves in the moment that somehow, as we move towards adulthood, we lose capacity to. And perhaps the world sets in and tells us those messages are bad or inappropriate. Like we said in the first segment, we get ourselves believing that somehow seriousness is better, but kids they don't have that yet.
Right.
So if we just look at them and look at what they're doing and say, oh, I want to do that. I want to just, I'm going to use that as inspiration to do that. The other thing I thought of was, okay, be goofy. And how do we do this? I think that if we're going to embrace playfulness, we need to embrace this idea of something that could feel kind of goofy for us.
Oh, yeah.
So think about not being so serious, and the moments that might be mundane, not take them so seriously. Maybe laugh at ourselves. So much of playfulness is holding our worry about what others will think about us.
I mean, it is. I mean, that is a life of, I think back to teaching, and I was, unfortunately for my daughter, I was the goofy teacher who did not care at all what others would think. So I'd be dancing around the room trying to cheer the kids up, or, you know, just provide less tension in a more tense situation. And it's that idea of, but as teenagers and adults, we don't, the world does not tell them, relax and just be playful. Who cares what others think? They're inundated with the opposite message. But it's almost giving them permission. Well, she looks ridiculous standing in front of the room. I'm glad that's not my mom. But it also allows them to have permission to be a little more goofy, a little more relaxed, right? Because I don't care if there's judgment.
Right. Well, and it also might be, if we come in with this belief that maybe we're not being judged, maybe other people want to do it too.
Yes.
So what
and
if
you know they want to?
Yes. What if our framework was, oh, we're all on the playground together.
Yep.
You're going to play differently from me, but you're not necessarily judging me. I'm the one interpreting it that way. And that even allows us to get to my third strategy is around being curious about new ideas, like trying something that sounds fun. And not overthinking it to a spot of telling ourselves we shouldn't do it to begin with.
Right. Which is what people do.
Just being curious about exploring.
Yeah.
Which is what the kiddos that you're talking about, even this week, they just embrace the idea. Like,
they do.
We're going to go be dinosaurs.
And they don't even think about it. That's the piece, is that there is no judgment from each other. They just have fun and are willing to be vulnerable.
That's
And it's
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
And the way that you talk about them, my guess is you didn't mention this, but while they're playing, they were likely also laughing.
Oh, they were laughing. They were smiling. They had no care in the world. Obviously, because they're children, did we have some hot moments of drama? Of course.
Mhm.
That's where I would step in and help regulate them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I always say this, and it's kind of cliche, is the most beautiful sound in the world is a child laughing.
Mm.
It's just, it is.
so contagious. And
Yes.
that was one of my thoughts about if we want to embrace playfulness and integrate it into our lives, we need to seek laughter and maybe even force ourselves to laugh. I
Mhm.
mentioned a few months ago that I did a laughter yoga training years ago, and our brains don't actually know the difference between real and fake laughter. It doesn't.
What?
It has the same physiological impact. So we have that same influence on our brain chemistry if we are forcing ourselves to laugh as if we're actually laughing. And what's really interesting is fake laughing often turns into real laughing. Like we begin to
Yeah, because
actually
the
laugh
other
at
person
ourselves.
laughs at you, how ridiculous you sound faking laugh.
And-
Now, that is mind blowing. So our mind does not know the difference.
The physiological response of
Wow.
laughter. And laughter really is contagious. It really is
yes.
contagious.
Yes.
And so sometimes when we start laughing in a forced way,
Mhm.
we actually cause ourselves to laugh for real.
Mm.
And if anybody who's listening can think of a moment where you watched someone laugh,
Mhm.
even if you don't know what they're laughing at,
Yeah.
it makes you even smile.
Mhm. It does, and sometimes laugh, giggling out of joy, not because something's funny, but just that giggle comes out. Just like I said earlier by the
Mhm.
bus stop,
Yes.
I told you off air, I started giggling because it just brought so much joy. Nothing was funny,
Right.
but joy was coming out of me, and it came in the form of giggling.
Yes. And that is an interesting challenge
Mhm.
in terms of strategies. Challenge yourself to find a joke or something funny to
Mhm.
share with coworkers.
Mm.
How much we're sharing serious content with one another right now.
Right.
And
in our country and just in our office, right? Our field of work.
for everybody everywhere, likely you're immersed in seriousness. So this
Mhm.
might be kind of a task,
Mhm.
but if you want to have something, you look for it. Look for something that you think is funny or silly,
I love that.
and then share it with people.
Mhm.
And the last strategy, which is really interesting,
Mhm.
which I'm just going to call 3 words. It's a 3-word challenge. It's called Find the Game.
That's such a Becky thing.
Make daily life so much more of a game. And what I mean by this is that daily life has the ability to be playful in all sorts of ways. We
Mhm.
don't have to go seek the extraordinary. You and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about joy. That can be the case. We can go do that, but playfulness doesn't have to be concert tickets that we spent hundreds of dollars on.
Right. Yep.
It could be, but it doesn't need to be.
Mhm.
And so if you can challenge yourself at home, just like we're going to do this morning, find the game and make it a game. And so we're going to take the challenge today.
Sounds good. I also want to say this, what you just said, it doesn't have to be expensive, tickets to a concert or whatever. How you framed it is it makes it accessible to everybody. Right.
All day
so there's
long.
really no excuse, right? We all have the capacity to do this.
Yep. And if you think about, as you're listening, a moment when you felt playful, put yourself in that moment and remember how that impacted you. You instantaneously felt lighter. I 100% believe that. You can do that through your day. So you and I are going to take the challenge.
Let's do this.
We are going to focus on how to make daily life a game. And we're going to show people how to reinterpret a situation.
Oh boy.
So I'm going to give you a daily life moment or a situation, and you and I are going to immediately come up with a way to make it playful or a game. Make sense?
Okay.
All right. Making dinner.
Played a game where everything you're going to have on your plate is the same color. So it's a little competition, what you can create.
Oh my gosh. So would you plan that in advance for what dinner
I
you're
mean,
making?
I don't know.
or-
I just literally thought of it.
Yeah.
The top of it, I would say you could say yes or no. It'd actually be more fun if you didn't. So it was like, because we all think like balance meal, but what if it ended up just being like an orange,
Yes.
cheese, macaroni and cheese,
Oh, that's so great.
orange juice?
The first thought that came to my mind was try making one thing with your opposite hand.
Oh,
So making
you
dinner,
got to be also okay with the mess then,
you got to be okay.
which
Yeah.
is a beautiful
Or
thing.
it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But you tell yourself instantaneously making dinner, I'm going to use my opposite hand from my dominant hand, and I'm going to try. That's playful.
Love it.
That's instantaneous. But as I'm thinking about it a little longer, I'm thinking have a sing along while you're making dinner.
Oh, I love that.
Whoever's in the room
Yes.
with you, have a
Yeah.
sing along about something.
Yeah. Well, I just did last night. I was making dinner, or was it the night before? And I put on a record. Yes, a record, and kind of just danced around.
Yeah.
And it made it more enjoyable and fun.
Yeah. Okay. So scenario number 2.
Okay.
Getting ready for the day.
Okay. Just off the top. I mean, when I say this, I'm literally being so
We both
spontaneous.
are.
I'm gonna say pretend you're a sports announcer, and so you have to like do that as you're getting dressed. So it's like we're at the end of the period, folks, and Tara comes in and has 5 seconds to pick out her shirt. What will she pick now? Will
Oh
she
my
pick the green
gosh.
one or the red one?
And even talking about ourselves in third person, that by itself is playful.
Yes. That you could just do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking right as you said it, you have to get ready but walk backwards to everywhere you're going.
Okay.
Just
That'd
tell
be
yourself-
hard.
It would be hard, but you're instantly turning that moment into something silly and playful.
Love it.
Okay, scenario here. Someone is
Okay.
playing music at work in the cubicle right next to you.
Okay.
Your response.
I get up and start dancing.
Love that.
I mean-
regardless of what the song is.
Yeah. Like if it's slow, go for it. I'll do a little interpretive dance.
Because I think
Whatever.
I love that your instantaneous response is to get up and start dancing. I think frequently as adults we get annoyed by those things because now it's a kind of a distraction from whatever we were doing in that moment, and we're focused on that.
But then we're being an adult right there.
Yes.
Where you're getting annoyed by the sound.
Yeah. So you're saying lean into the distraction.
Heck yeah.
Get up and dance.
Yep.
My thought was turn around. I've done this many times to people. Turn around and ask them if this is their song for the moment and how it's their song for their moment.
Love that. Love it.
That's that little whimsical on creating a scenario. It's a little storytelling. Ask them how it's their song for their moment and then share yours.
Oh, I love that.
So
Love it. Too bad
especially
we
if
don't
it's
have
different.
cubicles at work.
People get what we're saying here.
Yes.
You think of the moments in your world that happen to you all the time and keep asking yourself, find the game. Find the game.
I love that. And it's 3 easy words.
It's 3 easy words, 3 words that will change your life. I promise you. Okay. Another one. Your kiddo starts drumming on the counter while you are talking, right while you're talking.
Well, rather than be annoyed, which a lot of parents would do, I would take out like a wooden spoon or a bowl or something and then start adding just to it and be like,
That was my thought.
Is it?
Yes. Like make a band. I
yes.
think Emily
yes.
mentioned this last week.
Okay.
She was talking about a
Well,
group
maybe
that
that's
she was in.
why my head was
They
in
had a
there.
whole session about that where somebody started with a beat.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
And then somebody started in
Yep.
with another beat. And so
Yep.
you're saying you just quick grab a
yeah, you just
spoon
grab
around you?
that. Yep.
I totally love that. I would say, if while kid is making the drum beat, stop what you're saying, whatever you were talking about, and maybe insert a would you rather.
Those are my faves.
On would you rather a drum beat to a slow song or a fast song?
Love it.
And so take that, lean fully in,
Mhm.
and be curious about some sort of playful question.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
This is also like a really quick tip for parents or, well, really anybody, honestly, is you notice your child or your partner or whoever is like banging on the counter, right? And you know they're doing it out of anger or some emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Adding play to it by what they're expecting is for you to be annoyed, right? Like, oh, stop doing that, honey.
Yeah.
Where what if you did whip out a bowl and a spoon and start jamming?
Mm-hmm.
That is going to take that tension and those negative emotions and just bring them down.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all you need
Yeah.
to kind of break the moment.
Yeah. Living that life of slightly less seriousness.
Yes.
And embracing that idea
Right.
of less seriousness. Okay, one more.
Okay.
The stoplight turns red and you really needed it to stay green because you're already late to where you needed to go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Find a game.
Yeah. My first thought is just turn on random radio, not like Spotify or whatever.
Okay.
And find a random station without looking and then just start blaring it and dancing. Create a dance party.
Immediate dance party.
Which you do. You say every day.
I do. Which is actually really funny. Sometimes the radio will really be funny and what song comes on first to your moment. I think that it's made me actually laugh out loud sometimes.
See, you allow playfulness.
My first thought was I'm at the stoplight. This happened to me actually 2 days ago. I had a moment like this where I was running late. The light did turn red and I needed to stay green. I started singing out loud all of the thoughts I was having in my head.
Love that idea.
And instantaneously put them into song format.
Of course you did.
So it's like I can sing whatever I want as long as I'm singing it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna like process all these feels of helplessness and I hate this world.
I love it. You could even throw in a swear word.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was doing it in my car. Right in that moment. So allow yourself that playfulness of even being frustrated and helpless.
And you don't need anything with the idea you have. You don't need a radio. You don't need an instrument. You don't, literally, you could do that with anything.
Yeah. And it makes me think about you mentioned when we're in a relational interaction where maybe we bring in a little less seriousness. What is it like to laugh at your own actions? What is it like and has it been like for you to integrate that less seriousness?
I love that. Well, and I think it too, if you're willing to do it, I think of a common thing, and I don't know if it's on TV or what it is, but it's that idea of if it's getting tense, doing that, you love me, dun, dun, that type of thing where I soon forget even why I was mad, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forget the origin of the tension, so it's also helping the person like me also reduce tension and things like that without even thinking about it.
Yeah, well said. When we have an ability to laugh at ourselves, huge on being able to show up to those moments and release the tension. I'm thinking about this just was recently. Maybe listeners can resonate with this as well. If you've sung a song lyric wrong forever, and I just maybe a month ago had this exact example of realizing with my own kiddos that I was singing a line from a song from my childhood.
Stop.
Totally inaccurately.
So since the beginning of time, you have been singing it wrong.
Whole life. And my kids watched this moment of realization in, whoa, I've been doing this wrong. And from a not taking myself so serious. Because sometimes when we highlight, oh my gosh, I've been doing this wrong. Yeah. What's the self-talk there?
Right. The negative self-talk of
I'm
how
bad
could I be so dumb?
Yes.
Yep.
That I immediately start laughing at myself.
Oh, and that's a good also role model for or modeling for your kids.
Immediately start laughing about that's pretty dang silly.
That is amazing.
And highlights, wow, I was pretty committed. What I said to my kids is like, I was all in for my whole life to that. And I
probably persuaded others, maybe.
I maybe did. And that was not accurate. That was not accurate.
I love that.
Laughing at us is this gift.
Yes.
That we are afforded an opportunity to make mistakes. We see kids embody this all the time in being willing to try things that we can go and explore and maybe not be great at to begin with, but laughing at ourselves and that playful energy that comes with the ability to laugh at ourselves. Huge gift there. Huge gift there. So much to think about here.
Oh my gosh, we could talk for days.
It's been an amazing discussion. We are going to head to a commercial break right now. But when we come back, we will talk through listener questions about what it really means to integrate play into daily life and some more strategies on how to do that. Feels Out Loud will process your thoughts in just a moment.
What else? All you got to do now. Nothing to lose. In a world full of strangers, you don't know what's right. All you see is danger, trying to find what you lost.
We are back again with Feels Out Loud, and this is the part of the show where we talk through questions from you, our beautiful and amazing listeners. If you have a question related to mental wellness, sharing feelings, or topics for each week that you would like us to process through, please visit our website at becomingtogethermn.com and find the Feels Out Loud page to submit a question directly. Or email us at contact@becomingtogethermn.com. We really do want to hear from you. So bring those questions to come in, and we want to know what you're wondering about.
And we've had some really cool questions this week.
We have. So grateful.
I'm so grateful to the listeners who have been interested in sharing with us about play in their lives and how to integrate play. One of our listeners says, I tend to be a serious person and I want to change that. What is a way I can practice being silly?
Can you imagine the number of listeners that can relate to that right now?
Yes. I think
Bravo.
every single person listening, an aspect of you tends to be a serious person. I love this listener's interest in changing that. And they're saying, what's a way I can practice being silly? And actually, we do have to practice this. Maybe as children, it came so easily to us.
Well, yeah.
But we do have to strength train around that a little bit. And one of my thoughts in responding to this listener was, it can be hard to be silly. We can get in our head about how we're coming across. So tolerate that. Know that that's going to come into
Sit
play.
in the discomfort a little.
Yes, that this is going to feel a little awkward. Try taking a picture of yourself being silly. And my initial image is take a selfie with a goofy face. Do not plan what the face is going to be.
Yep.
Take a selfie, hold out your camera. Don't plan it. Take a goofy face and then share it. Text it to 2 people. This can be vulnerable. So this is going to feel a little strange because we might worry about judgment or criticism from people, but I promise playfulness will change your day.
I love that. Well, and also you're sending it to 2 safe people, right? People that you feel safe with. That's you don't need to be sending this to a stranger, people.
And put with the picture something like embracing silly in my day.
Yes.
So right underneath the picture, text it to somebody and say, embrace silly in my day, or try something like tag you're it. Silly, it's you're up for silliness.
Yes.
Make this a game.
Yeah.
When we say find the game, then turn that silliness into a game. Your selfie then becomes somebody else's moment of silly.
Love it.
And maybe they'll send it back to you. Maybe they'll send it to another person. How cool would that be? If you initiate a whole line of tag on silly selfies or goofy selfies.
I love that. I feel like we might have to be doing this at work the next couple days.
I think we should try it.
Love it.
This leads to our second listener says, how can I be intentionally playful? Well, listener, first, I love the word intention. I have
you do, girl.
An adoration for this word.
Yes, you do.
So how can I be intentionally playful? Love this already. One of my thoughts is, and would love your ideas too, Tara.
Yeah.
Plan a play date. Don't reserve play dates for ending when we're 10.
Well, yeah. We're talking about an adult play date.
So I mean it. Plan a play date with your friends, get together with them, ask them to bring a toy from childhood. And I'm thinking Play-Doh, and I'm thinking Mad Libs were my favorite thing from childhood. I had a whole Mad Libs party once when I was 8. And
I love that.
Have an evening where you say, we're literally going to have a play date.
Yeah. I love that. Or board games, maybe throw in a cocktail if you're over 21.
Yes.
Like you can have this beautiful combination of being an adult. And I mean, there is no way you're not going to feel joy if you decide to whip out like the game of life or Sorry or Play-Doh or whatever. What a great idea.
And what you're saying is I'm intentionally seeking this.
Yep. This
changes my life. It promotes my well-being. With intention, I'm going to put playful into my world.
Yep.
I'm so proud of this listener for seeking opportunity to do it. And that brings us to the end of the show.
Holy moly.
We're already there today. Thank you for listening this morning, everyone. Join us next week as we explore the mental health impact of friendship, when it helps us and when it doesn't. And in the week ahead, be kind to yourself. Remember that connection fosters wellness, everyone. And your voice is one around you the world needs to hear. Share yourselves, friends.
In the middle.